Hey everybody, it's Catherine. It has been 4 weeks since I got home from Peru, where I went on an amazing healing journey. I got to participate in a bunch of different modalities of healing that I had never done before. Some that I had, including ayahuasca, San Pedro, sweat lodges, and then things I'd done before, like yoga and hiking. And I came back a completely different person. And the person I came back as 4 weeks ago has changed. She's evolving, she's growing, she's had some ups, she's had some downs. And anyway, there's some pretty phenomenal things that I've been learning, studying, talking about, and I wanted to talk to you about them today. I mentioned in a previous video that I've been exploring this masculine feminine energetic balance. My dear friend Logan introduced me deeply into this topic, and he recommended a book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. This book changed me, changed my life. I feel like every single person on the planet should listen to this book on audio or buy it and read it. It's that powerful. And sure, it's written as if it's two men, but it was so applicable to my life and to my reality that it had a profound impact on me, and I think it is pretty universal. So I highly suggest you listen to it. And I wanted to talk about a couple of the things that were mentioned in this book that really stood out to me. The first is that every single person has masculine and feminine within inside of themselves, right? Just because you're born a man doesn't mean you're all masculine. Just because you're born a woman doesn't mean you're all feminine. Maybe you've chosen to identify with a different gender. That's sort of irrelevant here. The point that he is making is that every single person has both masculine and feminine within them. He also says that in order for two people to have sort of an attraction or a charge between the two of them, there needs to be someone leaning one way and someone leaning the other. So in my world as a heterosexual woman, this means that me being the woman, I would lean more toward feminine. My partner being the man would lean more toward masculine, and this would create this chemistry. We've all felt it before, right? So it takes a dichotomy or polar opposites to create a lot of electrical type things. Think of electricity. You've got two different charges, right? And they create a current. When you look at the electromagnetic field of the planet, you have the North and the South Pole. So this is sort of the same thing. I mean, probably when it comes down to physics, it is the same thing, right? Opposites and negative attract. Positive and negative attract. You stick two ends of a magnet that are both negative, they're going to repel. You stick two ends of a positive together, they're going to repel. You do the positive and the negative, and they're going to attract. And so this can take place in any type of relationship, man and woman, 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 man, man, but somebody's got to be leaning one way or the other. Now, when that is taking place, there are different levels of balance that can be found within yourself, within an intimate relationship, or culturally. And the first level I would describe as sort of toxic, right? You've got these polar opposites, but their intention is more about me. And in the book, he talks about how in the 1950s, our culture went through this. You had the housewives, the image, keeping up with the Joneses, wearing their high heels, vacuuming the floor, just doing their little thing, because they wanted to appear a certain way. The men wanted a sandwich made for lunch and dinner on the table at 6, and there was sort of this toxic manifestation of the polar opposites, right? So we're still attracting when we're in this state, but it's probably not doing the world a lot of good for the attraction to be taking place here. Now, culturally, in the book, they talk about how in the 1960s, we started to sort of approach more of a balance between feminine and masculine. So you're looking at the men growing their hair long and playing music and doing drugs and really getting in touch with more of their feminine side, their emotional side, their spiritual side. And the women are starting to get into feminism. They're burning their bras. They're looking to get careers, right? So there's this balance that's sort of starting to take place. Now, when you're in this spot, there's not going to be as big of a charge, right? Because you've got people who are finding balance. This is a great place to be. I feel like I went on a very balancing journey this year in 2017. I have probably related with masculine energy for a greater part of my life. And I think you all saw that manifest through my activism, right? I was hardcore. I was a toxic masculine. I was angry, excitable, getting in people's faces. And that was a very toxic masculine manifestation of the masculine energy within me. Now, the feminine energy within me was also toxic. It wasn't healthy or strong. And when I would feel my emotions, I would end up, like lying on the floor, sobbing and crying in extreme despair. And I was unable to take those as a warning sign or an internal guidance system, navigation system. I wasn't using my emotions to make better decisions. I was just suffering in misery. So I had these two toxic manifestations of feminine and masculine within me. And I believe for a long while, I definitely had greater masculine energy than feminine. I think that started to balance when I got pregnant, started getting in touch with my femininity. And this summer in particular, I was on a mission to heal. And I hadn't learned about this feminine, masculine, energetic stuff. It was just sort of happening intuitively for me. And I feel like when I arrived in Peru, I'd kind of reached a place of balance. I'm not going to say I had perfected it, but I was reaching a place where I wasn't so out of whack. I wasn't feeling as toxic. Now, what happened in Peru is I believe a divine feminine energy was shook and awake within my soul and began to bubble out. And I didn't quite know what to do with it. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't really know what was happening to me. And I started having these conversations. Now, the third level I would describe as trust. So if it was like toxic, then balanced, and then trust. And this is where the decisions you're making are decisions that make the world a better place, right? It's not about me. But you are able to lean into one, feminine or masculine. And when you have a partner, you're able to trust. So for me, I would trust the masculine in my partner more than I would trust the masculine in myself. And for my male partner, they would trust the feminine in me more than they trust the feminine in themselves. And it sort of creates this beautiful symbiotic thing where it's healthy. It's not toxic. It's based on love. And it's a decision. The decisions you make benefit the entire world because they are based in love. It's not a selfish thing. It's not about me. It's about all of this. Because we are all of this, right? We are all connected. We're all one. It's a beautiful thought. So those are the 3 levels that he talks about. And that was pretty much mind-blowing for me right there. Another thing that really stood out to me was when he spoke about the masculine is seeking freedom. The masculine is more about emptying. And in Buddhism, you talk about emptying yourself to find freedom, letting go, right? And that's a very masculine thing. Feminine energy is about filling up. It's about love. It's about abundance. When you look out to nature, feminine energy is everywhere, right? It's the trees, it's the birds, it's the clouds, it's the stars, it's creation. And we need a balance of both within ourselves and within our relationships and within our culture. And as someone who comes from the liberty movement, where there is a lot of toxic masculine energy as we fight for freedom, right? And of course that tends to start with the political stuff and you're like, get it out, clear it out, empty out Congress, empty out the White House, get rid of all this stuff. It's about emptying, it's about clearing and cleansing and freedom. Something I feel that's been missing in large part is that what do we do once we've reached that? What do we fill ourselves up with? That loving part, that feminine energy has been missing, in my opinion, in large part from the liberty movement, at least since I was involved. I can't speak to previous, but I'm pretty sure it was similar, okay? So in my experience, the liberty movement has had a more toxic masculine energy, and I believe that that's why there haven't traditionally been as many women involved. And sure, the Ron Paul revolution, it was about love, except a lot of the activists really weren't that loving. They were kind of hostile. They were kind of aggressive. It was a little intense. So that stood out to me a lot, that this freedom and this love, masculine, feminine. And as he worked through the book, and I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. I could not stop listening. I listened to the whole book in one evening. I highly recommend you check it out. It's on YouTube for free, read by the author, okay? Check it out. Toward the end, he takes you through this meditation that was amazing. And I want to talk y'all through it because it had a very profound impact on me, and I'm trying to incorporate this energetic, meditative experience into my daily life while I'm doing my yoga practice in the morning, while I'm walking down the street, while I'm talking to a lover. I don't know if you can hear the music. It sounds like someone's playing a trumpet outside. Okay. So first he talks about relaxing your jaw and allowing your tongue to touch the roof of your mouth. He says that this completes a circuit between all of your chakras. Now, my friend Naja, who is studying acupuncture and Chinese medicine, she said that that is completely in line with the meridian lines within your body, and that when your tongue touches the roof of your mouth, it completes these circuits in Chinese medicine. I don't know anything about it. I definitely want to read more into it, but I found that quite validating, because when I said that, she was just like, yes, I know all about that. I thought that was pretty phenomenal. So while your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, completing the circuit, he asks you to start breathing deep, lower than you do in a yoga practice. He's talking about breathing deep into your genitals, all the way in. Filling up completely so that your stomach is so full that you can feel it down in your lower root chakra. You can feel it in your genitals. And exhaling, right? And slowly this is going to build up. So once you sort of master that movement, and you can feel it, it's stimulating. Then on your out breath, you fill up all the way down into your genitals. You breathe out and you raise your consciousness up above your head, a foot, 2 feet, and then you lower yourself back down. All right? So you start practicing this, and you're on your out breath, you're raising your consciousness up. On your in breath, you're filling yourself all the way down into your genitals, and you're creating this movement and this motion. You don't have to move your hands. I'm just demonstrating where your consciousness and your breath and your energy is going, right? So then the next part that you add in is the breath swirling around your heart as it transfers between the two. So you breathe in, swirls around, fills up, breathe out, swirls around, comes up, right? So now you've got this beautiful thing happening throughout your entire chakra system. Okay? That felt phenomenal. Then he adds in this next step, which is where while you're doing this, and you're moving this energy, this chi, this consciousness, and you're moving it up and down, above yourself, down into your genitals, you're stimulating your genitals. If you can get it down into your feet, get it into your feet, but you should feel some things while this is happening. The next step is to start broadening your awareness to your surroundings. Your eyes are closed during this. And he's talking about feeling energetically what's in front of you, what's next to you, what's behind you. Can you visualize how far away the window, the door, the wall, the chair, whatever's in front of you is? Once you're in this state and your breath and your energy is moving and you're basically creating this giant aura of presence all around you, he says, this is how the superior man walks on earth. And I'm like, hell yeah, the superior woman too, right? Because the book is written in the context for men, but I felt it 100% applying to me. It was phenomenal. So I wanted to share that with you guys in case you found it helpful. I could go on and on. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. I listened to a second podcast today that was really about the soul and the ego, and sort of related how the soul is your feminine driving force, your creativity. The ego is more the masculine, the planning, the logistics, the safety, and finding the balance. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that podcast. This was a different podcast. I wanted to share that with you, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. How do you feel about the feminine masculine balance within you? What about you and your partner? What about our society as a whole? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you in the comments, and I will post a URL to the YouTube video of the audiobook in case you are interested. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I really appreciate it. I'm super grateful.